טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. טוב להודות לאדוני ולזמר לשמך עליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות. ידעי, ידעי, Shalom Mishpacha, Rabbi Esther here from a small sanctuary, and this is my final Shabbat video. We are going to talk about the practical objects of Shabbat. What do I use and why do I use it and what do I love about it? Some of these objects are ritual objects like benchers and Kiddush cups and candlesticks. Other things are more kind of the personal items close to my heart that really help me disconnect from the worries of the week and that allow me to really relax. Things of whimsy, things of beauty, things of joy. What you'll see is a lot of B-roll with my voiceover talking you through all the beautiful things that I have collected throughout the years. Some of these items are not religious items. They are things that bring me a sense of delight and joy and whimsy and beauty in the world. For me, Shabbat is the drawing down of heaven to earth. It's a really embodied experience. It's a very sensual experience. It's not just about the lofty, but it's also about earthly delights. Oneg Shabbat. So these can be things like books, for instance, and magazines that I enjoy reading. You're going to see some of my books that talk about my hobbies, or beautiful picture books, or prayer books, spiritual texts. You're going to see some of my china that I enjoy using on Shabbat, and many other things. For each person and each family, these items will be different and they are unique. Many of my items are thrifted or gifted. Very few are actually purchased new. And I think it just goes to show that you do not need to break the bank to acquire small delicacies of physical beauty to delight your day. I've collected these over a period of over 20 years. Some of them I've made, some of them I've had made. Some of them come from thrift shops. Some of them were heirlooms passed down to me by other families. Whatever it is, each item has a wonderful story, and I look forward to sharing it with you. First of all, my Shabbat silver. Some of it purchased vintage, some of it new. The Kiddush cup that my husband and I used for our wedding, and silver cups that we were given for our children. Shabbat candlesticks were a wedding gift also, and then we got additional candlesticks to match. These are very special to me. This Kiddush fountain was gifted to me recently. Vintage, an heirloom, and I fixed it up again to look beautiful, and my kids love it because you pour the wine in and it is distributed along the 6 silver cups, and it's just really fun. My Shabbat love language is flowers, and my husband knows that. All he needs to do is buy me flowers and I will have a spring in my step. So we try to get fresh flowers almost every Shabbat, from Trader Joe's no less, but they keep quite well. This is my Shabbat setup. I have a lot of complicated and intriguing thoughts about sacred spaces in the home, or what in some spiritual traditions are called home altars, and I tend to see the place where you place your Shabbat candles similarly. It is a focus point of prayer for me. Here is a bencher, just a very classic one, but I like using it because it's really simple and it has transliteration, which helps my kids. It has Shabbat songs in it. These prayer books I gifted my kids last year for Hanukkah from the CCAR press. I'll link it below. And they are beautifully illustrated and my kids enjoy browsing through them. And I think it's important with books to note that your kids might not read them every week or use them that much. That's okay. Just having them around is an invitation of itself. My blue Italian spode china. I started collecting the teapots for my birthday just before the pandemic, and collecting this piece by piece has been a strange comfort during those very dark days in 2020. It matches the Judaica collection, which is also brought out by Spode, so I love it. These are candlesticks made by a dear Jewish artist friend of mine, and I use them for my kids so they can light Shabbat candles too. This aluminium travel Shabbat set is made by Yair Emanuel, and I got it in Jerusalem. I think it's discontinued, but I will link the website below. It's super pretty and very functional. Vintage china, always a hit. These are my Shabbat cards. I promised to tell you about them in my last video, so here we are. They have different midot, or Jewish values, like achrayut, responsibility. And what you do with them is you put them on the plates of your family members or guests, and it invites an invitation to talk about how these values show up in your life. So we have hakarat hatodah, gratitude, ahava, love, briut, health, etc., etc. And so this allows you to spark conversations about your spiritual inner world at the Shabbat table, and they're really lovely. I will try to find the independent artist who made them and link it below, but I got them a long time ago and I don't remember where. They come in this little bag and they're just very cute. A way to add a little bit of depth to your Shabbat tish. My plants, they don't really do anything on Shabbat except for grow quietly in the corner. I used to be an avid gardener in another house where I used to live, but my current house doesn't really have a setup suitable for gardening, so I container garden on my porch, and that works quite well. I use them for fresh herbs for Shabbat meals, and sitting on my screen porch on Shabbat gives me a real sense of peace and well-being. Here are my peppers, I'm excited to try those, and some flowers for added beauty and whimsy. Not really an object, but my two black cats, or voids as we say in the black cat community, are definitely a source of joy on Shabbat. I love snuggling with them, I love having them beside me as we read, and I don't quite know any other animal that embodies Shabbat rest so perfectly. Rest like a cat on Shabbat. Look at that. Shabbos Menucha. Over to books. Before I became a rabbi, I really used Shabbat as a time for Jewish learning, for Torah study, and I still do that. But I also use this time to read secular books that give me great joy, like Tolkien and fantasy and science fiction and cooking and crafting books and hobby books. All of these turn my attention away from the stressors of the world and settle me in my sense of self, and it's just a lovely way to unwind. So here are cookbooks and here are crafting books. I do not craft on Shabbat and I don't crochet on Shabbat, but I do enjoy looking at books and magazines for new ideas. Here are my Tots, of course. An integral Shabbat practice is my prayer life, mostly at the synagogue, of course, but also at home. And I read Jewish books like this one, Davening by Zalman Schachter Shalomi, and Tea by Bia, which is all about lovely delights that I could prepare for Shabbat. I enjoy tea every day, all day, but Shabbat really is a time for tea time. And so this Victoria Tea Time book gives me a little inspiration to enjoy my tea. And here's a crochet magazine as well. How could I forget challah? I make it every week, and it is a staple in my household and something I so cherish as a sacred practice. Let's make some tea together. with this Russian tea that I picked up at an Eastern European store a few months ago. And here I am using some of my lovely china. This wasn't recorded on Shabbat, but it just adds a little atmosphere for how I spend my Shabbat. Shabbat is family time and it is game time. Here's our collection of some of our tabletop games that we enjoy playing with our kids on Shabbat. And often, frankly, Uno wins the day. Speaking of kids, PJ Library, we still get the books, and my daughter enjoys reading them very much, and that is a Shabbat treat as well. So here's one about Oznat, one of the first female rabbis in the world who ran her own yeshiva. How cool is that? And as you can see, it's beautifully illustrated. Let me take you on a journey through this lovely book with its bright and beautiful colors. Enjoy! I do play the guitar on Shabbat, at the synagogue and sometimes also at home, and I will make sure to play Shabbat music both at the synagogue and at home, and it gives me such joy. Last but not least, here is my setup all ready to go. Sometimes I use these travel candlesticks, sometimes the resin ones from my artist friend. And here is this cozy corner that invites beauty and reflection and prayer. Shabbat is all about letting go. There's so much in our world we can't control, but we can add purpose, beauty, and meaning to our lives with the things we bring into our homes and the ways we use them intentionally with joy and togetherness. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for joining me on this journey.